All right, let's have some fun. Today we're going to be talking about 5 fundamentals that stand the test of time in terms of marketing. And we're going to be doing so in the context of disruption. More specifically, digital disruption. How it's coming to the automotive space and what that means to you. Now, the thing about disruption is that somebody always has to be the loser. Of course, that means somebody always gets to be the winner. Think about MySpace versus Facebook, the taxi industry versus Uber and Lyft, Blockbuster versus Netflix, even Ned Stark versus Jon Snow. And whether disruption is good or bad depends on what side you're on. And whether you win or lose depends on whether you see it coming and what you do about it. Ned Stark never saw it coming. But disruption is coming. The thing is, we just don't want it to come for the people in this room. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. There's a number of industry speakers screaming that dealers are going to be disrupted. And honestly, I don't think that that's going to happen. And today we're going to examine how dealers, the very people in this room, can be the disruptors. And to be the disruptors, you must understand the 5 critical fundamentals that stand the test of time. Now, these seem so simple, but they're not. And we're going to get into each of them into detail. Obviously, you got to understand your business. You have to understand your customers, and I mean really understand your customers. You have to focus on value in the customer experience, but in an authentic way. And I think that's what's missing from a lot of our marketing and advertising. We want to talk about that and how to fix that. And of course, you have to be able to fight a hippo, which is complicated, but we'll talk about that, and be able to embrace change and the change that's coming, and whatever that looks like and whatever it means. We're going to talk a little bit about Blockbuster and Netflix. It's the classic fairy tale of business woe, right? A once unstoppable billion-dollar conglomerate that had 84,000 employees in 9,000 stores across the nation, fails to adapt and becomes obsolete, and basically descends into bankruptcy and irrelevance because of what we're told, arrogance and stupidity, right? Now, everyone thinks they know the story of Blockbuster. The problem is the story you've been told is simply a fairy tale. And it's the type of fairy tale that industry pundits tell, because it's a simple story, because simple stories have simple answers. And if you believe that companies like Blockbuster and Xerox and Kodak were run by stupid people, well, you guys can all avoid their fate by not being stupid. So there you have it. Don't be stupid, and everything will be fine. I'm Justin Cook. This was 5 fundamental. All right. So obviously that's not reality, right? Reality is much more complex and, luckily for us, entertaining. The thing is, the story about Blockbuster, not only would it make a great movie, but a hell of a digital dealer presentation. And it starts within 6 degrees of separation from America's favorite actor. No, not Tom Hanks, Kevin Bacon. 6 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon. Let me explain. The year was 1997, and the protagonist, a 37-year-old Bostonian named Reed, walks into Blockbuster after renting Apollo 13, and he returned it to his local Blockbuster, albeit a little bit late. The 16-year-old clerk behind the counter looked at him and with a smile handed him a $40 late fee for returning that video. Apollo 13, right? Starring Kevin Bacon. Now, can we all agree that $40 is a little punitive for Apollo 13 with Kevin Bacon? Would it change your mind if this guy Reed wasn't kind and he didn't rewind? No. No one knows what that means. Okay. Reed was incensed. He was angry. He was irate. And he decided that he was going to do something about it. And 2 years later, Reed Hastings founded Netflix. In 2000, Reed Hastings flew to Dallas to pitch Blockbuster CEO John Antioco with an idea that Netflix and Blockbuster partner together. Reed literally got laughed out of the room. And we all know what happens next. Blockbuster's profits go to 0. And Netflix shoot up to $11 billion. Now, that gives Netflix a $159 billion market cap. And to put that in perspective, what $159 billion looks like. The International Space Station orbits the Earth at 250 miles. If I were to stack up 159 billion $1 bills, they would stretch 10,000 miles above the Earth. That's a lot of money. Fun fact, on the International Space Station, urine passes through a special water treatment to make urine into drinking water. Speaking of leaving a bad taste in your mouth, in 2000, Blockbuster passed up an opportunity to buy Netflix for only $50 million. They passed, right? Instead of buying Netflix, and I promise I'm not making this up, Blockbuster invested in another industry titan called Enron. They signed a 20-year deal called Project Braveheart with Enron Broadband Services, a subsidiary of the energy giant trading company. In 2001, we know what happens, right? Enron files for bankruptcy, and Project Braveheart crashes and burns harder than Mel Gibson's career. So why did Blockbuster really fail? And that's what we're going to be examining today. And how is it that we can avoid a Blockbuster-sized mistake, right? A lot of people claim they failed because they didn't know their business. I disagree with that. But if they're correct, then all we have to do is know our business. And we can disrupt businesses that don't know their business as well as ours, including your competitors, right? So let's take a second to ask ourselves, how well do we know our business? Stand up if you're primarily responsible for the marketing in your dealership. Come on, stand up. This isn't a trick. I'm not going to put you on the spot. No, I lied. I'm going to put you guys on the spot. What is your objective? What's your goal for this year? What's the goal? Sell more cars. Goal. Sell more service. Goal. Cars and services, right? Sell more cars. You guys can say, sell more cars than last year, more than last month, more than a competitor, more than the OEM. You'd be surprised how many sophisticated businesses don't set goals. And then you'll be surprised how many people do set goals and they don't share them with the people doing the marketing, the people in this room. And then you'll be surprised how many of the people in this room don't share that information with their marketing companies and their partners and their vendors. And that's really what's the critical thing here. So success starts with goal setting. And if you don't have goals, you're not going to know how to achieve those goals and how to center your marketing plans around those goals, right? So the next question is, all right, I have my goals. What budget am I going to apply? Well, we want to sell 300 more cars. Great. How are we going to do that? Well, here's $500. Nope, that's not going to do it. That might sell 3, 4 cars, 5 cars, but it's not going to sell 300 cars. So we have to set realistic goals. You can look at NADA stats to sort of get an idea of what the cost per acquisition is. So when you're having conversations with people at the dealership and they're trying to figure out what the goals are, you can get an idea of what is a reasonable amount of money to apply to that goal. Next question you want to ask yourself is, are there new competitors in the market? I was speaking to a client the other day, and he was up 25% last year and up 25% the year before, and he had slipped to like 10%. And he's like, I don't understand, my marketing's the same. I'm like, you don't understand? There were 2 new points that opened up in your market. The ones that you applied for and didn't get. There's more competition in the market. There's 2 new people competing with you for the same customers. Your existing strategy for last year is not going to make it. The same budget you had last year is not going to cut it. You have to think differently. All else being equal, it's not going to be the same. Perhaps there's no new competitors, but all of a sudden you're seeing fierce competition from one of your new guys hired a smart new guy or a fantastic marketing agency, and they're coming in there and they're disrupting your market. Well, there's all kinds of awesome reports from the OEMs, like your pump in, pump out report, that's going to be able to show you who's winning and where. And it's your job to determine why. Is it price? Is it inventory? And we'll talk a little bit about some of the reasons. So another thing that you want to think about is what's selling in your market. When you guys leave here and people say, how was the presentation? You're probably going to go, it was good. I talk to dealers and I say, how's your inventory? And they say, it's good. I have plenty of inventory. But if you have 250 sedans and everybody in the market wants SUVs, your inventory is not good. It's terrible, right? So we have to be thinking about that. And there's all kinds of great reporting that we can get of actually what's selling. And of course, I can show you countless dealers that are very sophisticated, that are buttoned up, that have great marketing strategies, that have 20% closing rates on their internet leads. They just don't have the right inventory. They're not getting the leads that they should. So it's important to understand what's selling in your market and to be able to buy inventory in advance that, of course, is the stuff that's selling. Another thing I really want you guys to understand is, and this might be the most important question, is how am I performing against my brand? So, how often does the GM come in or the owner come in and say, oh, we sold less cars than last month. It must be marketing. Oh, we're down from last year. Well, that's okay if the entire market is down much more, right? So if you really want to understand how you're doing, you want to take a look at your market share. In other words, how are you performing against your brand? If you guys are up 20% and you're like, I'm up 20%, but everybody else is up 40%, you're down 20%. If you're flat and everyone else is down 20%, you're up 20% against the market. And when you guys are having intelligent conversations with people at the dealership, it's really essential for you to understand that. And the next question, of course, is at what cost? I'm up or down against the market, and what did it cost me to get that, right? If you know that you're up or down against the market, you can use a dealer gain loss report to see where you're up or down against the market. And by the way, none of this stuff costs you anything. The OEMs have all this information. This is all stuff that you can get in your portals typically. The OEMs do a great job at reporting. They make cars and they do reporting. That's really what they're awesome at. And it's your job to take the information that they provide you and give it to your marketing teams and rely on them. If we find out that we're down, and we're down because of 6 or 7 zip codes, or 6 or 7 areas, well, what do? We go into our campaigns and we increase our bids in those areas. We might increase by 45%. If there's a competitor we're losing against, we might set our campaigns to outbid that competitor in these zip codes. One of the things that really works effectively is if-then statements. Does anybody run if-then statements? So if-then statements will allow you to put in code in your ads that create ads based on where somebody's located. So if you're trying to increase your market share in a bunch of zip codes, you can say if anybody comes in from this zip code, not only are we going to pay more, but we're going to give them a specific ad. And this has actually resulted in one of the best A/B tests I've ever seen. And I think you guys will know which one would win. But one of the ads, and this was for a Miami dealership, one of the ads said something like, only a 35-minute drive. The other ad to that same zip code said, only 2 miles from the dealership. So yes, it took 35 minutes to drive 2 miles in downtown Miami. So this is something that you can set up and have a lot of fun with. Another trick that I want to show you guys, and this is super valuable, is really understanding your internal conversion rate. We have a client who is now in the top 5 in the world. They have great conversion rates all around, but their phone conversion rate is significantly better than their internet lead closing rates. And I don't know why, but they're consistently better. And what we decided to do was run call-only ads for them. And if you guys have people that are great on the phones but bumble the internet, this is something that you guys should really think of. And you can be really smart with this, right? You can run these ads. You can run them in certain locations. You can run them around competing dealers. They only show to people that have a device where you can make a phone call, so you don't have to worry about this showing a desktop. It's smart, and it's sophisticated. It's effective. And your closing rates are going to be the same as what they always are. Now, if your closing rates are terrible on the phone, obviously you don't want to run this, right? So by knowing our business better than our competitors, it gives us the power. And if we know our competition's business, because we're looking at the reports that have them in it, and we know it better than they do, we can take business from them. If we see that they're losing because of their inventory, if we see that they're losing because of certain zip codes, we can go in there and we can start disrupting them. Now, we might beat them in 3 or 6 months. We might beat them in a year. We might beat them in 5 years. But if you know more about your business and you know more about your competitor's business than they do, you are going to disrupt them. You are going to win. Now, some say that Blockbuster failed because they didn't understand their own business. I disagree. I don't think that's correct. And the truth is that John Antioco, the CEO, was extremely competent. And sure, he made a couple bad decisions. But as soon as he recognized that Netflix was actually a threat, he did something completely unique. Right? He saw the writing on the wall. He invested $200 million into Total Access, which was basically competing head-on with Netflix. His goal was to launch Total Access with more videos, more titles than Netflix, who had 20,000. And they beat that goal. They launched with 25,000. And it started to work. Now, the thing is, Blockbuster had relationships with all the top studios and publishers, so it got all the new videos the second they were out. And Netflix sort of had what's left over, all the old stuff. The other thing is he knew his business. These people wanted their stuff as quickly as possible, and on-demand wasn't really ready yet. So he used all the stores as fulfillment centers, so he could actually send out videos faster than Netflix could. It was working. In August of 2004, Reed Hastings told everybody in an earnings call, an analyst earnings call, that in the last 6 months, and his stock was starting to go down, Blockbuster threw everything but the kitchen sink at us. The next day, he received a package from Blockbuster made out to him. Inside, a kitchen sink. Blockbuster was winning. They were signing up people faster than Netflix. And they were letting them know that they knew that. So just let that sink in. Just let that sink in. Okay. All right. Fundamental number 2. So it's clear Blockbuster wasn't disrupted because they didn't understand their business, right? But how well did they know their customers? So how well do we know our customers? So one thing that we want to think about, what should our media mix look like? And I know this conversation has been happening for a long time, so I'm not going to dwell on this. But you look at some Polk data. It says 75% of automotive shopping research time is done online. And then you can sort of see the user media consumption. And what surprised me is print. Print is consumed at 3%, yet dealers still, and again, the people in this room, I suspect, is going to be a little bit different, a little bit more sophisticated. 24% of budgets are going to print. And maybe it's going to be a little bit different this year, I would hope. But that's really important to understand, right? Push-button marketing, even on the digital side, just doesn't work anymore. So we have to know where we're going to focus our time, our effort, and our money. What locations are we going to go after? What demographics are we going to go after? What zip codes are we going to go after? What type of consumer segments are we going to go after? And then what we want to do is we want to pinpoint those key battle areas, and these are your sub-goals. I want to increase my sales in these 5 zip codes. I want to increase my sales in these demographics. I want to increase my sales in people that want SUVs. This is the way that we have to think about our marketing right now on the digital side. And then we have to measure against that. It allows us to do almost one-to-one marketing and show custom-tailored messaging. Well, if we want to get people from Route 19, well, let's offer a special deal for people from Route 19. And we'll have it in the ad. We'll bring them to a landing page that shows that, giving them incentive, right? It's specifically designed for them to increase that conversion rate. I want you guys to challenge your marketing partners to increase your sales in certain zip codes. Whip out your pump in, pump out reports. Put them to work. We have no sales in these zip codes, guys. Let's apply $1,000 and see if we can move the needle. Look at this, boom, 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 boom. All right, you guys should spend $2,000. Nope, $1,500. You guys should spend $5,000. No, we're going to spend $2,500. You guys should go up. No, let's bring it down. And since it works, let's stop spending money there. Okay, right? And then measure against it, right? Understanding the buyers in your market and allow you to target them specifically and more effectively. Take a look at your demographic reports, right? In this instance, well, the goal was to increase market in the Hispanic campaigns. And we went in there and were able to do that. And the interesting thing was the click-through rate was 140% higher. And the cost per click was 70% cheaper because there was no competition. Because the set it and forget it companies aren't out there doing campaigns in different languages and translating all their campaigns and all their negative keywords and all their stuff. It takes work to do this. So I challenge you guys to think about this and to get this data and send it to your marketing partners and ask them to move the needle for you and then measure against it. It's very simple to measure against it. What's important to the buyers in the market, right? You might want to look at the income. You might want to look at credit and run different types of campaigns based on income, based on credit. Craft campaigns that are custom tailored to the people who are buying cars. It's all about understanding your customers and knowing your customers, right? So you can target with pinpoint precision and accuracy and steer them to pages that are high converting and give you an edge over your competitor. What devices are they using? Samsung or Apple? Mobile or desktop? How many of you guys look at your website every day? How many of you guys look at your mobile site every day? Do you have more visitors to your website or mobile site? Mobile, usually. And the mobile sites are not that good, usually. So you want to be thinking about that. Let's say your mobile site is good. It gives you an advantage. You can apply more of your budget towards mobile devices. Now you're getting more traffic. Call-only campaigns, higher conversion rates. You get in touch with those people before the people next to you. There's all kinds of extensions and beta programs that Google's running. Make sure you're involved in these programs. So talk to your marketing partners and find out if they are white labeled to do beta tests in Google. And if they are, make sure you guys get in on those beta tests because usually they prefer a competitive advantage. You want to be part of them. Try these things out. The next thing is focus on value in customer experience. And I want you guys to think about this. And this is like probably the most important thing that we're going to talk about today. Once John Antioco from Blockbuster realized what was going on, not only did he invest that $200 million into the online program, but he also did away with late fees because his customers hated them. And he wasn't going to be disrupted by a company who knew his customers. He wasn't going to let that happen. So he spent, at a loss to Blockbuster, of another $200 million. He did away with those late fees. How many of you guys have a why buy page? Everybody, right? Lots of hands. Well, everyone has a why buy page pretty much. You all have basically the same websites that say the same things, and why should I buy from you? Well, everyone has the best price and a state-of-the-art service center and was ranked #1 by, my in-laws at bestdealerforinlaws.net because bestdealerforinlaws.com, they didn't rank very well. Family owned and operated since 1492 and have such amenities like coffee and super slow Wi-Fi, right? We're all sort of saying the same thing. And I'm being facetious, but we're saying the same things here. And what I want you guys to do, if there's any takeaway from this, is forget about your why buy for a second. I want you to come up with a customer appreciation strategy. a customer appreciation strategy. And it has to be authentic. And that's the key word here. Show a little appreciation, little things that go a long way, that just make it better, right? Send handwritten notes to clients thanking them. Send stuff to them on their birthdays. Offer them a surprise upgrade on something. Reward your socially savvy customers, right? The people who are on social media. Showing your customers that you authentically care and appreciate them breeds loyalty, breeds more service business. The people that service with you are going to buy from you. You're creating customers, you're creating relationships. We want them to buy on relationships. It's not always about price. You know, and I have to say, I see these one-price dealers now really doing a good job with this. And they're beating the pants off the people that are next to them, and they're making more money. And they're making more money. And I think it's about making an emotional connection with people. Maybe you use humor or good video content or something with the goal of getting your customers to just be in the moment for 1 second. Sorry, I'm just a big fan of Phil Collins. All right. We'll watch it again. Yeah. Some people said I'd never get over my obsession with Phil Collins, but look at me now. Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's better than my old obsession with Michael Jackson, but luckily I beat it. Yeah. So Netflix knew its customer base, and they had free shipping, no late fees. It was disruptive because it caused Blockbuster to incur damages to compete with them to the tune of about $400 million, right? And the ugly truth was Blockbuster was penalizing its customers. That's what their business model was dependent on, screwing their customers. That's why they had to do away with this, and that's why it was costing them. And they were paying for it. They had to compete. So let's talk about the automotive space and who's likely to be disrupted for the same reasons here. This is not a trick question. Raise your hands if you would be okay with your competitors putting your inventory on their website. No one? All right, raise your hands if you would be willing to pay a couple grand to your competitors for putting your inventory on their website. No. Raise your hands if you let your top competition handle your pay-per-click campaign. Would any of you let your competitor put lead forms on your website? No? I don't see any hands, which is crazy because I feel like all this stuff is happening. So who's a competitor? I mean, when you look at the space today, when you walk in the other room into the automotive industrial complex of people grabbing you and trying to sell you shit, it's hard to figure out who's a partner and who's a competitor. A competitor is anyone who is going after the same customers you are. A competitor is anyone who you're competing with in pay-per-click and SEO for customer eyeballs. Do we all agree with that? Right? Anyone who's outbidding us, anyone who's trying to take our customers and bring them to their website is a competitor of ours, right? Technically. All right. Competitors compete with you in paid search, right? And I want to talk about the third parties for a second. And nothing against any of them. But they all are super successful and they're fantastic businesses and they get a lot of eyeballs. But I just want to walk through the process here. They compete with us in paid search for our ads to bring our traffic to their websites, right? They outposition us in SEO, usually using our inventory on pages. They take our inventory, they outposition us in SEO, and they take our customers to their website. Are some of us maybe listing some of our websites on inventory, our inventory on third parties and competitors? Sometimes we're paying them for the privilege of taking our inventory and putting them on their website so they can do SEO and drive traffic to their website. And they're branding and they're converting. They're taking our traffic, bringing them to their websites, right? Creating your dependency on them. And while competing with us in pay-per-click and driving up our costs, they're also willing to handle our pay-per-click for an additional fee, right? We would never let our competitors handle our pay-per-click unless they gave us a good price, right? And there's nothing stopping you from them from handling your pay-per-click and outbidding you with their campaigns, or potentially handling your competitors' campaigns, and all of you guys are fighting for the same spot, right? Not feeling appreciated? Would a price hike help? Right? Would that make you feel better? Remember how Reed Hastings felt, right? With that $40 fee. And this is happening all over the place, you know? Maybe you forgot to rewind Apollo 13 starring Kevin Bacon. And I've heard people that have paid $599 a month, the people that are paying thousands of dollars a month for the same, like, there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to this. And it sounds like what Netflix was doing to their customers. Only you're the customer. You're the customer. And I have nothing against them. I really don't. I just, as an advocate for dealers, I just think you guys have to think about what's happening in the marketplace and who we choose to give our money to and what they're doing with the money. The disruption might not be coming from Amazon. It might not be coming from Tesla. It might be coming to from the people that we're paying to do our marketing. And I want you guys to think about that. Now, a pessimist might say, hey, some of the third parties' business practices aren't, you know, couldn't get any worse, but not me. I'm an optimist. I think they can. I recently spoke to an individual, and he told me his top performing website, his top performing partner was CarGurus, and I'm like, that's good. And after a while of just hearing him talk about this, I started to wonder if I was talking to somebody from CarGurus. And so I Googled him up just to see if he was real, and of course he was real, and I clicked on his website, and I went to his VDP pages, and I looked at this, and I noticed there wasn't like his call to actions had been removed from the page, but there was some good ones from CarGurus, and I clicked on it. And it opened up in a new page, and it sort of took up the whole page here, and that's where the form was. And I was like, okay. So I filled out the form. A couple minutes later, I get both an email and a call. Really good, like 4-minute call response time. It was very good. And I talked to them, and I said, did this come in as a CarGurus lead? Don't forget, I Googled them on a branded search. I went to their website. I clicked on a VDP on their website. I filled out the form, the VDP, that opened up in a new browser. I think it did open up into CarGurus if you actually look at it. Did it come in from CarGurus? Did it go into the CRM as a, you know, even said, hey, I'm Raphael, I'm the CarGurus internet specialist. They thought it was a CarGurus. In the CRM, it said it was CarGurus. Sure did, right? So, you know, here's a customer that was on the website. They filled out a form, and is coming in as, of course CarGurus is going to be the best performer. Of course it is. But are they taking credit for something that they shouldn't have? I think so. I think so. I think it's wrong. I do. And the interesting thing was a few minutes later, or maybe not a few minutes, actually a couple days later, I got an email confirming it. But the email was from CarGurus. And what I didn't like about it is the first call to action was similar cars. And when I clicked similar cars, it brought me to, not to the dealer whose form I filled out, but it brought me to CarGurus. To CarGurus' website, where his competitors' traffic was. His competitors' vehicles were listed. But it gets worse. Because a couple days later, I got an email from CarGurus that said, you know what? We found better cars, cheaper, closer than the dealer whose form you filled out on his website. Think about what's happening here. And then I got another one. Right? They continued to send me stuff. Then they sent me an email and it said something like, get the most for your car by selling it on CarGurus. And I took that to mean is don't trade it into the dealer whose form you filled out, who's a CarGurus customer, but instead sell it and get more for it on CarGurus, which is crazy. And then they said, you know what? You can get $1,200 more to sell your car. They represent they get $1,200 more on average, whatever that means, if I sold my car on CarGurus. So they're competing with the dealer for the trade-in as well. So they're sending the traffic to the competitors, competing on the trade-in. And then they sent me something that said, we offer financing. I had no idea that the car gurus did loan payoffs or payments or financing or any of that stuff. It sounded like a car dealership, right? What's my car worth? And I could go and get a trade-in form. Does this seem right to you guys? Is anyone surprised? So I don't know about you guys, but I'd think really hard before I would let any of the third parties anywhere near my customers, anywhere near my website, anywhere near my paid search campaigns, and anywhere near my inventory anytime soon. If you have someone that's competing with us in SEO and charging me to list their inventory and reinvesting that money to outposition me in pay-per-click and then offering to handle my pay-per-click and then putting code on my VDP pages that open up in a new browser that takes them to their website and converting your customers off your website to theirs, and then following up with emails that show similar cars and better price that are closer at your competitors, that's crazy to me. All for a low monthly fee, right? We should all put our Reed Hastings hat on and come up with a plan. Now, we all have the ability to cut ties with the third parties and become our own third party. It's your inventory, not theirs. And with 800 digital touch points, all these companies are selling you that buyers are on our website. But the buyers are on all these websites. And all you have to do now, there's enough data out there, there's enough technology out there, that all you have to do is focus on the buyer. Forget about where they're looking at. Just focus on the people that took those actions, that search for those cars, that have those cookies that have been pixeled, that have visited those websites, that type in certain keywords. You can't boil the ocean. You can't boil the ocean. You can't be on all these sites. It's expensive. And you're just you're reaching the same audiences. You're reaching the same people. What you want to do is just focus on the individual, focus on the inventory, wherever they are from the car journey. And there's lots of data out there. There's third parties, there's audience data that you can buy. You can target these people. You know what they searched for. They know what they've looked at. You can buy them directly and show ads to them. Sometimes you can even show ads to them on the third party sites. Sometimes they don't sell out of all their inventory and they sell them on third party ad networks. And you can buy their excess inventory and show ads to them. You can do that. Sometimes you can get access to their audiences on all kinds of different third parties and all kinds of different data plays. And you can show those people ads wherever they are. They don't even have to be on the third parties. They could be on Facebook. They could be on YouTube. You can show those ads. And you're going to pay a fraction of the fees. There's some really good dynamic campaigns where you can take your HomeNet feeds and you can show individual ads in Google AdWords for each vehicle in your lot without having to make an ad for every single one of them. And there are some companies that do a really good job at this with negative keywords that show for only exactly what you searched. And if you search for something else, they don't show up. And you start looking at it, it's very high click-through rates and very low cost per click if they're doing it effectively. $1.96 cost per click, it's great. Are you part of a group? Be your own third-party site. You have a group site. You have all your inventory. I can't tell you how often, we got a Toyota store and the Toyota store only advertises for used Toyota. Well, my Toyota store has a whole bunch of used Subarus and my Subaru store has used Toyotas. Well, bring them up to the group level. Everything can't be a silo. It's 2019. We have to break the silos. If you have the advantage of being part of a big group, you have a huge advantage if you're taking your data and leveraging it in a way that's not siloed. You can go after competitors. You can box them out. You can cookie everybody. You can understand that someone looked at a Ford and a Toyota and a Chevy. Well, I'm going to bring them to the group site and show them all crossovers because that's what they're looking at. Right? So leverage that. I'm going to give you one really, really cool thing. I'm not talking about dynamic remarketing on Facebook. I'm talking about behavioral display with dynamic carousel ads. So one of the most effective strategies that I've seen as of late is taking those same third-party feeds I was talking about before, mostly the data feeds, and figuring out what did this person look at, and then looking at your inventory and see if you have the same thing on your lot. Again, these are not people who have been to your website. that we're remarketing to. These are people who haven't been to your website. They look at a specific vehicle or a segment, and now what we're doing is you want to show them the specific vehicle that you have, and you do it through one of these carousel ads where you actually show the vehicle you have with the price and the options. And you can do this on Facebook and actually the whole Facebook audience network right now. It's awesome. So someone goes out and they look at an F-150, and then they look at another F-150, and then they narrow it down to Raptors. And you have a Raptor, well, you can show them the ad for the Raptor, even if they've never been to your website before, just by looking at the third-party data sets, because it's usually down to the trim level right now. And this, right now, reminds me of like Google in like the early 2000s, 30 cents, 40 cents a click. It's very effective. It's highly targeted, really good time on site, and these are people who look at that specific vehicle. So very effective, and something I think all of you guys should try. Data-driven decisions. We all like to think that we use data every day and that all of our strategies are based on data, but really we don't do a great job at this, I think. Netflix had a ton of data, but they were using it wrong. They had a problem. Their customers would lose interest. They were overwhelmed by the process. If within 90 to 120 seconds they didn't pick a movie, they gave up. And this was costing them money. So what they did was they did a nationwide search for analytics companies to come in and put together an algorithm that would show this person the video that's most likely to be relevant to him. And the goal was to make their recommendation engine more accurate than it was. And they awarded an analytics company, Bell-Korg's Programmatic Chaos, $1 million, which has netted them over $1 billion in profit. Now, the automotive industry has a different problem. It's an attribution problem. And there are lots of companies out there that want to sell us a solution. The problem is the automotive cycle is so complex that there's just not a good technology out there that really solves this problem for us. And we understand as dealers that this is a major issue, and we're just like searching for an answer. And the industry is giving us solutions, right? You guys need something? Well, here it is. Here's a whole bunch of stuff. But they're not really solving the problem of attribution. They're not solving the problem of causation. They're really solving correlation. And this is the problem. If they were all out there selling, we have a correlation dashboard, I would say this is amazing, and you guys should check it out. But if they're saying this is an attribution causation dashboard, and we're going to tell you where all these people came from and where all your business came from, it just doesn't, at least nothing I have seen, in my opinion, gets there or does that. Right? And that's what we're looking for. Every day the rooster gets up and it crows, and then the sun rises. And the next day the rooster crows and the sun rises. And the day after that the rooster gets up and crows, and I take my shotgun and I shoot it because I'm trying to get my beauty sleep in my pajamas that I'm wearing right now. Is the sun going to rise? Did the rooster's crowing cause the sun to rise? Is there a correlation between the rooster crowing and the sun rises? Of course there is. But it's not causal. Every time, I know how we can get rid of the rain. Every time I see an umbrella, I notice it starts to rain. But does umbrellas cause the rain? No. Is there a correlation? Yes. Is there causation? Not any more than ice cream sales and shark attacks, right? And by the way, as ice cream sales increase, so do shark attacks. Sharks have a great sense of smell. Everybody knows that, right? They can smell blood in the water. Do you think they can smell ice cream? Why is it that as ice cream sales increase, shark attacks increase? Summer, heat. We're in the water. We buy more ice cream. Correlation does not imply causation. And you'd be better off not spending money on things that are showing you correlation, but taking your budget and putting it towards your marketing spend. And that's from a guy who has an analytics company. embrace change. Hippos are the most dangerous animals on the planet. More deaths than selfies. In fact, hippos cause more deaths, and this is true, than lions, elephants, leopards, buffaloes, and rhino attacks combined. More human deaths. They also kill businesses. When I say hippo, I'm talking about the highest paid person's opinion. The problem with the hippo is simple. Once the person with the highest paycheck, who's in charge, who has more experience, has more authority, his voice, once he lets his opinion out there, the rest of us are powerless to challenge it. Decisions become based on erratic fear and emotion. How many of you guys see this in the auto industry? Right? All the time, fear-based decisions. We want data-based decisions. You need to fight the hippos with data, right? They have the most power in the room. So by the time of the kitchen sink incident, Antioco had cut late fees to the tune of $200 million loss to Blockbuster. He had spent another $200 million investing in the project to fight Netflix, and he was winning. He was taking market share. And then the unexpected happened. In 2005, an investor named Carl Icahn got involved with Blockbuster and won 2 board seats in a proxy fight. When another board seat opened up, he used his power on the board to veto everybody that they recommended until the board allowed him to take his choice. He now controlled the board. And he wasn't concerned about customer appreciation. He was an investor tied to the venture capital firms, and he wanted profits. And he had his vision. And he used his position as being the hippo, in this instance. When Antioco's bonus came up, he held back some of the bonus. A fight ensued, and Antioco was fired. They let him go, or he decided to leave. So he agreed to leave. To replace him, they tapped Jim Keyes, not the person that Antioco wanted, but the exact opposite. And what did Jim Keyes do? Well, he immediately rolled back total access plans. He immediately rolled back the late fees policy. And yes, he does look like Kevin Spacey, but that's not Kevin Spacey. But of course, what happened next was Blockbuster tumbled like a house of cards, right? When Antioco heard the news, well, let's back that up. Blockbuster failed because of fear. Fear of change, not looking at the data, letting the hippo have its way. That's the real reason. They had done so many things right, they were winning. They might have won. When Antioco found out that they were rolling back late fees, he saw the writing on the wall. He sold his stock and he bought Netflix. He said it wasn't an emotional decision. He just realized that they were opening up the entire industry to Netflix. And then they would have full access to streaming. They would have full access to all the toppings, all the things that gave Blockbuster an advantage. Now, don't worry if you get nostalgic about Blockbuster and you want to relive those good old video days. There's still one store left in Bend, Oregon. It's usually used as a backdrop for tourists taking selfies. And any of you guys can just go see it. And if you want to go in, just let them know beforehand. Just give them the heads up that you're going to be coming. And they'll come and open it up, right? I guess the takeaway here is if you know your business, you're never going to be disrupted. If you know your customers, if you know your competitor's business better than them, you're going to defeat them. As far as the third parties go and all these companies that are trying to disrupt the marketplace, you got to take sides and figure out what's good for automotive and what's not good for automotive, right? Some of these companies have had their day, right? Remember, every night used to be a great night for Blockbuster night. Thank you guys, I'm Justin Cook. This is 5 Fundamentals.